Welcome. Hello. Happy New Year. Thank you for coming. Today, the Office of Youth and Community Restoration will be hosting this webinar. My name is Katherine Lucero. I am the Director of the Office of Youth and Community Restoration. We're going to be discussing updates made by AB 505, which was signed into law in October of 2023 and took effect on January 1st, 2024. This webinar is certified for 1 hour by the Standards and Training for Corrections Division. Participants must attend this webinar training for the full hour to receive 1 hour of STC credit. We're delighted that you have joined us. Also, this webinar will be recorded and available for viewing on OYCR's website under Resources. Email us at oycr@chhs.ca.gov to request to be added to the OYCR email distribution list for future webinar updates, news, and resources. Next, thank you. We will briefly introduce OYCR and then quickly dig into AB 505. Specifically, we will focus on two key areas of change. First, we will discuss the changes to the Ombudsperson authorities and their responsibilities. And second, we will discuss some changes to the Juvenile Justice Realignment Block Grant process and development. At the end, we will answer some questions that were submitted during the registration, and if time permits, address questions from the chat. I am joined today by my colleagues who are essential to the work that we are doing and who are directly working with the subject matter that we are focusing on today. To start with, expressing who we are as an office is important to us. So I will invite our Deputy Director, Alani Jackson, to share for a few moments about this transformative work.
Good afternoon, everyone. Born from SB 823, OYCR signifies a transformation in California's youth justice approach, emphasizing health and healing over punishment. OYCR envisions a future where every youth thrives as a responsible community contributor. We take a health-based, youth-centered approach, guiding California's youth justice system away from punitive measures toward accountability, health, and healing. Collaborating with community organizations, we shape environments that foster youth development. Our mission prioritizes trauma-responsive, culturally informed, and developmentally appropriate services, empowering youth in the justice system to overcome challenges. Partnering with various stakeholders, including impacted youth, families, judicial systems, probation departments, schools, and advocates, we work toward creating safer communities. SB 823, which created OYCR, as I mentioned, also closed the Division of Juvenile Justice, a shift that was based on the recognition that young people are better cared for close to home in their communities, where they can remain engaged with their families and loved ones and can be supported by community partners who will continue to be involved in their lives. OYCR is committed to supporting community engagement and community-based care. For example, OYCR is supporting counties in developing innovative, less restrictive programs so that young people can leave the most secure setting as soon as possibly consistent with youth healing and accountability. OYCR has also launched a technical assistance project to help small community-based organizations develop their capacity to support youth who are justice impacted. We are also committed to elevating youth voice and the voices of people with lived experience in the juvenile justice system, a commitment and priority we elevate across our 4 divisions: health policy, ombudsperson, research and data, and system change and equity. I am excited to this end to inform you that OYCR is developing a youth advisory board and look forward to keeping you all updated on this effort as it develops. At this time, I will now turn it over to Alisa Hartz, OYCR's Ombudsperson, to describe the impacts of AB 505 on the Ombudsperson role, their additional responsibilities around site visits, and extended access to youth records. Thank you.
Afternoon. The OYCR Ombudsperson Division was created by SB 823 along with OYCR as an impartial body that can investigate complaints relating to youth in all of California's juvenile facilities. Complaints can be brought by anyone, youth, family members, staff, community groups, and the OYCR Ombudsperson will decide at their discretion whether to investigate those complaints. Complaints can be related to violations of rights, violations of law, and harmful practices in the facilities. After investigating the complaint, the ombudsperson can try to resolve those complaints where possible in collaboration with the facilities and staff. An important part of the work of the Ombudsperson Division is educating youth and others on the rights of youth in juvenile facilities. This will be done in large part through education around the Youth Bill of Rights, which went into effect a year ago on January 1, 2023. This is not new to AB 505, but we have developed new materials, so we're taking this opportunity to mention it. AB 2417 created the Youth Bill of Rights, which summarizes the existing rights of youth in all juvenile facilities. OYCR has developed standardized, age-appropriate information explaining these rights. Facilities will post the Youth Bill of Rights throughout the facility, including in classrooms and living units, and they will give copies to youth as well as parents and guardians. OYCR undertook an extensive engagement process with stakeholders to develop youth-friendly materials. Specifically, we received public comment and feedback from stakeholders, and we importantly conducted focus groups with youth currently in facilities. The materials developed include a poster and an accordion brochure in English and in Spanish. And what you're looking at on the slide is a section of the poster that will be displayed in facilities. These new materials will be mailed out to county probation free of charge in the next few weeks. They are also available free of charge to other stakeholders and community members upon request. Please call the Ombudsperson Division helpline or email the Ombudsperson email address to request materials. And we will put that contact information in the chat at some point during this presentation. Turning to AB 505, this is just a quick summary of the main changes to the Ombudsperson's authorities and responsibilities that we will be discussing today. First, the OYCR Ombudsperson has increased authority to access youth and facilities. The Ombudsperson no longer needs to give 48 hours notice before interviewing a youth or visiting a facility. They can simply show up at the facility and conduct interviews. There was also a clarification that the Ombudsperson can take notes as well as audio or video recording or photographs to the extent that they are not otherwise prohibited by applicable federal or state law. The statute specifically allows the Ombudsperson Division to bring in the equipment necessary to undertake such documentation. We do believe that documentation is critical, and in particular that audio recordings of interviews are helpful in documenting thorough, impartial investigations. However, we do ask for consent from youth before recording interviews, and we also explain that OYCR's notes and records, the Ombudsperson Division's notes and records, are confidential and cannot be subpoenaed, produced in discovery, in litigation, or released in a PRA request, a Public Records Act request. Also, the Ombudspersons and the staff cannot be compelled to testify or be deposed. AB 505 also identifies other individuals whom the Ombudsperson can interview besides the youth. The statute now expressly gives us the authority to interview relevant witnesses, including personnel and volunteers. It also provides that we can interview sworn probation personnel in accordance with applicable federal and state law, local probation department policies, and collective bargaining agreements. AB 505 also provided the OYCR Ombudsperson with increased access to records of youth in juvenile facilities. First, the OYCR Ombudsperson was specifically added to the statute governing who can access juvenile case files without an order from the juvenile court. This is Welfare and Institutions Code Section 827. This access has created parity with the Office of the Foster Care Ombudsperson, who has similar access to youth records. Second, where previously the OYCR Ombudsperson had to provide 48 hours notice for records, now the Ombudsperson can have access to records at all times. Additionally, there were some clarifications around what access to records means. Specifically, the statute now specifies that the OYCR Ombudsperson may review, receive, and make copies of records. It also clarifies that records includes juvenile facility records, but not confidential personnel records. AB 505 provides more detailed itemization of what counts as a record that the OYCR Ombudsperson can access, including not only case records, but videos, as well as facility logs and other materials. These examples of records that the Ombudsperson can access are helpful in providing clarity to probation departments about what kinds of records OYCR is entitled to, and it will enable consistent investigations in facilities across the state. Please note that OYCR Ombudsperson cannot access materials that are protected by privilege. The AB 505 made a few more clarifications in the law. First, it expressly provides that the Ombudsperson may suggest changes to improve services and address broader systemic issues. It also specifically requires the Ombudsperson to advise all complainants that retaliation is not permitted and constitutes the basis for filing a subsequent complaint. This will be an important part of the educational work that our division will be doing, and we will be enlisting the support of probation and community members to help develop a culture in the local facilities that supports access to the Ombudsperson. Finally, the Ombudsperson Division now has the responsibility to conduct a site visit to every juvenile facility in the state once a year. This includes juvenile halls, secure youth treatment facilities, ranches, and camps. It does not include less restrictive programs that are not juvenile facilities. I now want to invite Christian Lucchese, Research Data Specialist for OYCR, to describe the impacts of AB 505 on the Juvenile Justice Realignment Block Grant plans and processes.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to cover the AB 505 impacts on the JJRBG process. This slide is just going an overview of the primary changes that we'll cover in this section, and I'll be going into the details, but specifically we'll be talking about the planning process, involvement of community members on the subcommittee, any new elements that create extra sections or information for the county plans, and review process that OYCR manages and the communication around that. To give a background on what the Juvenile Justice Realignment Block Grant is, or the JJRBG County Plans, the JJRBG was created to support counties in caring for youth whom they could previously have entrusted to the care of the Division of Juvenile Justice. To be eligible for these funds, each county must convene a subcommittee to develop a plan for how they will use the grant funds to care for youth who have committed the most serious offenses. Welfare and Institutions Code Section 1995 lays out the topics that the plan must cover, and in brief, those topics would describe the youth impacted by the plan, the facilities, programs, and services for these youth, addressing needs like mental health and reentry support, and it also explains how grant funds will be used, emphasizing evidence-based practices, detailed description of facilities, and includes strategies to keep youth within the juvenile justice system. It highlights regional agreements that counties will use with each other and stresses data collection for transparency and accountability in juvenile justice approaches. OYCR has a responsibility for reviewing these plans and requesting any necessary revisions prior to posting them publicly and documenting a summary of the plans. The core content of the county plans remains largely consistent with previous year, but there are a few changes that I would like to highlight around the role of the subcommittee and its engagement in the development and approval of the plan. First, plans must now be revised and submitted annually, as opposed to every 3 years under the prior statute. To this end, AB 505 provides that the subcommittee must meet at least twice annually to achieve this and review the plan, make sure that it is approved and that there was involvement of other committee members. The subcommittee does not have to have any additional members, but AB 505 provides that the subcommittee may choose to have a co-chair in addition to the probation chief. If the subcommittee decides to have a co-chair, it can select any member to be the co-chair alongside the chief probation officer. AB 505 also provides that the plan must be approved by a majority of the subcommittee members. This ensures that all subcommittee members can have an opportunity to weigh in on the plan, as well as communicate those differing processes between system level partners and community level partners. Information about these aspects of the planning process will be included in the 2024 county plans with designated sections describing how this is expected to be communicated and the details of these expectations. Another change is directed specifically at the community members of the subcommittee. Under prior law, each subcommittee had to have at least 3 community members who are defined as individuals who have experience providing community-based youth services, youth justice advocates with expertise and knowledge of the juvenile justice system, or they have been directly involved in the juvenile justice system themselves. AB 505 provides that those community members that were identified previously must be involved in the review and development of the plan. This will ensure that the important voice of community members can inform the planning process and provide their insights to the system partners. There is one new element that the plan must cover that creates specific content or sections within the outline of the plan. And that plan is that they must report progress on implementation and development of solutions from the prior year's plan. This will allow all stakeholders to review the progress of implementation and see how things are being carried out based on the plan goals that counties set in previous years. The last AB 505 impact that with the county plans or the JJRBG process outlines OYCR's responsibility in reviewing these plans to ensure it is addressing all of the process changes. The changes that we mentioned today, such as regarding the involvement of the subcommittee in development and review of the plans, the adoption of a majority vote, the involvement of a community member, and the desire and the way that a co-chair was decided if that was created. And that the plans include the latest progress achievements by that county. OYCR can return the county plan back to the county to complete elements or the planning process if it was not identified clearly. But note that these requests for revisions will not impact the timing or allocation of the funds or the disbursement of the funds to the county. Now that concludes the section for the JJRBG impacts. So we have one section left that regarding AB 505 updates prior to getting to submitted questions. And that last update that we want to cover is that judicial inspections. One last important amendment is that recent changes in oversight procedures now require judges to conduct annual inspections, not only for juvenile halls, but also for probation camps, ranches, and secure youth treatment facilities, or SYTFs, as they may be mentioned. This means judges will regularly check if these facilities meet state standards. And these changes aim to ensure that all facilities, regardless of type, maintain the necessary standards for the safety and well-being of youth that they can find. And with that, wraps up the AB 505 impacts that we wanted to cover regarding Ombudsperson Division, the Juvenile Justice Realignment Block Grant, and those judicial inspections. And with that, I'm going to introduce Crystal Rollins, our Chief of County Coordination, and bring back Director Lucero to go over some of the questions that were submitted in the registration process.
Thank you, Christian. Director, we've received many questions, so we'll start with number 1. Can you please explain the county plan acceptance versus approval process?
Yes. Thank you, Crystal. And thank you to those of you who've already presented this afternoon. OYCR receives and reviews the plans to ensure that all statutory items are included and that the planning process was followed. The statute provides that OYCR can return the plans to the county for a revision or so that the county can complete the planning process prior to the final acceptance of the plan. Once any revisions or updates are provided, we accept the plan and notify the county.
Thank you. Can you explain the practical impact this has on youth justice facilities and their personnel?
The amendments to the Ombuds Division authority will allow for more timely complaint investigations and for consistent access to youth, facilities, and records across the state. With more detail provided to the Ombuds Division, there will be more consistent investigations across the counties. So that is a practical impact of the additional authorities.
Will the juvenile court records be requested? If yes, how and by whom?
The ombudsperson has access to the youth case records, which may include juvenile court records. The ombudsperson and their staff will request such records if they are relevant to the investigation. So I think it will depend on the holder of the records. So if it's a court record, it will be a court request. If it's a probation file record, it may be a probation request, and so on and so forth.
Thank you. The Youth Bill of Rights, where is that located and how can it be obtained?
The youth-friendly materials are on our website and will be mailed to probation departments in the coming weeks. My understanding is that they're being printed in 2 languages and that the staff is currently making sure they have current addresses, and they're also discerning how many posters and brochures that each of the counties desires in order to make sure that we're mailing out the correct amount.
What is the ombudsperson's process when contacting an agency?
By statute, the ombuds will notify the chief probation officer when they decide to investigate a complaint and will also provide records request in writing. So the chief probation officer is, by statute, the person that will be contacted.
Thank you. Will OYCR have a clear understanding of the police officer's Bill of Rights?
OYCR is aware of the police officer's Bill of Rights and will work directly with probation departments on any issues that arise that impact these rights. The OYCR ombudsperson can interview sworn probation officers consistent with law, department policy, and collective bargaining agreements.
Thank you. Director, is there an intersection of AB 505 and CalAIM? And can you explain that?
CalAIM is a broad transformation of Medi-Cal to create a more coordinated, person-centered, and equitable health system that works for all Californians. It will provide powerful funding streams that can support work with the justice-impacted youth population in the form of such things as wellness coaches. The CalAIM Justice Involved Initiative will provide medical, behavioral health, and robust case management services to youth 90 days prior to their release from juvenile facilities. The CalAIM Justice Involved Initiative will ensure that youth receive needed services prior to discharge, during reentry, and in the community, with the goal of decreasing decompensation and increasing continuity of care. These new resources will support the care of youth while they are in juvenile facilities, and most importantly, will assist in the process of stepping back into their communities. The resources of CalAIM can be mobilized by the communities in their JJRBG plans and will provide additional funding streams, programs, and staff as additional community supports to the justice system impacted young people. And this isn't really able to specifically talk right this minute about how to operationalize this, but we are and have contracted with subject matter experts on how to operationalize this for the probation departments and for your community stakeholders. So please know that this is a very wonderful and new innovation, and that we will have and do have staff expertise to assist counties. Yesterday, I actually had the opportunity to talk to one of the chiefs while I was at another meeting in the state, and it was made very clear that it is probably going to be necessary for us to have a very probation-specific training on how this can become operationalized, and we are committed to doing that.
Thank you. What are some recommendations for JJCC subcommittee meeting schedules and plan revisions?
The subcommittees must meet twice a year to adopt the annual plan, and there are new requirements around the involvement of community members in review and development of the plan, as well as an approval of the plan by a majority of the subcommittee. The spirit of these new requirements is to increase community participation in the substance of the plan and its creation. OYCR is aware of certain jurisdictions whose subcommittees meet quarterly or even monthly, and OYCR is supportive of the structure and cadence appropriate for the individual communities, one that recognizes the importance of community input as well as the time required for meaningful participation by both community members and system partners.
Thank you. What support, training, and funding will juvenile justice facilities receive from OYCR to ensure compliance with AB 505?
OYCR is offering office hours and consultations on preparing the county plans under the updated Juvenile Justice Realignment Block Grant requirements. The Ombuds Division will consult with probation departments on AB 505 changes as questions arise and is happy to present to individual departments upon request.
Do you have any questions? I'm sorry, we received many questions about the ombudsperson's role within OYCR. So Director, would you be able to kind of explain, are we providing a handout with regards to the role of the ombudsperson, scope of services offered, et cetera?
We appreciate the suggestion and the ideas. The OYCR website does have a description and some FAQs about the ombuds role, but I think that as we evolve, we will make sure that we have information that is useful, user-friendly, and take in any suggestions that you have. So far, we have the website posting and the FAQs about the role, but this will be an evolving ability to message so that everyone can be on the same page.
Okay. There's some questions about the ombudsperson and their right to interview and record individuals, whether it be youth, staff, or volunteers. Do they have the right to decline the interviews and or to be recorded if they're uncomfortable with that? And can they also contact the representation?
Absolutely. Individuals have the right to decline interviews, be recorded, or to contact their representation. Those responses will be recorded in the complaint investigation notes and potentially in other reports that are made public about the work of the Ombuds Division. So there's absolutely a right to decline the interviews, be recorded, or to have representation present.
Less restrictive programs in the community that probation contracts with, does it fall within the scope of WIC code 2200 D9?
No, we are only visiting at this time with the juvenile facilities that are enrolled with BSCC, and less restrictive programs that are located in the community are not, we are visiting them as so that we can see them and so that we can talk with youth in them, but they are not part of this AB 505 edition.
Okay.
I think I got that right. I think I got that right, Alisa. Was that accurate?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
How will the ombudsperson build collaborative working relationships with juvenile facilities?
So the ombudsperson will offer frequent opportunities for probation administrators and staff to engage and ask questions. Site visits will also provide an opportunity for engagement and discussion. The ombudsperson is an impartial investigator and looks forward to resolving complaints in collaboration with facilities wherever possible.
There's a question about juvenile facilities and youth receiving clear directions as to what will be investigated by the ombudsperson.
The ombudsperson has the discretion to investigate a wide range of complaints relating to youth in the juvenile facilities, including violations of laws and regulations and harmful conditions. The Youth Bill of Rights is a good starting point for the types of rights that the ombudsperson may investigate. When the ombudsperson decides to investigate a complaint, they will notify the complainant and the chief of the facility, unless there is a security concern.
Thank you. We received a lot of questions, Director, about the JJRBG plans and the changes. So there's a question about wanting to know if there's any changes to the grant at this time.
There are no changes to the grant at this time.
Okay. Will data be shared as to the county's compliance with the JJRBG requirements? And if so, who is responsible?
The data provided in the county plans will be shared in OYCR's summary of the plans. OYCR is also working on ways to share data that is consistent with youth privacy and state data privacy laws. OYCR does not anticipate that county plans will be out of compliance. However, to the extent that a county is not meeting all of the elements in a plan and the plan is not complete, that would be reflected in the summary plan, consistent with our duty under the task that we have been given as the ones who are supposed to look at the plans, make sure that the plans were submitted properly and timely. So that kind of information could be reflected in the summary plan.
Thank you. And I think just to add to that, Director, if I'm not mistaken, Christian mentioned earlier that if there's revisions, OYCR will ask for them. Did you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah. OYCR can request revisions for a county plan or the planning process if it appears to have been incomplete. And to that extent, any of the annual plans remain incomplete, OYCR's annual summary will indicate that.
Okay, thank you so much. I think that was it for all of our questions, unless you wanted to elaborate. Sorry.
Well, I think the last thing was there was a comment about the progress. And so one of the things that is different is that the counties will be reporting on the progress toward the prior year's goals, and that will help stakeholders understand the progress toward the collective goals and any challenges that may be delaying it. And so that will be really important to our plan reviews and also to our summary plan.
Okay. Thank you, Director. That's all the questions that we received during registration, and I will turn it back over to you, Director.
All right, it looks like we have one question, I believe, in the chat. And if there are any other questions, please go ahead, feel free to put them in the chat. Wouldn't all youth benefit from the increased services required by the block grant? Job training, improved mental health services, etc. Is there an effort on track to improve these services for all? Mm-hmm. And I couldn't agree more that all youth will benefit from the types of services that we're seeing being reported for the block grant. And it's my belief and also my experience from being out to the counties that first, many of the counties already had a lot of these efforts in place, and there was an expansion of efforts. And second, that by bringing in activities that can be offered to the kids at the SYTF, I think counties are realizing that these are excellent programs and are doing what they can to extend them to all youth where appropriate, but let's remember that I think the average length of stay for a youth in detention is like 21 days or maybe even, more or less. So there may not be an opportunity for every youth to engage in every program. But I think that the learning is like a curb effect, and that curb effect is, when one area is improved, a lot of different populations can benefit. So I couldn't agree more, and I think that we're already starting to see that.
Director, there's a question about, is probation under law able to mix SYTF youth with non-committed SYTF youth in the same unit?
To my knowledge, but I will go ahead and defer to Alisa. To my knowledge, there is no prohibition against that at this time. Alisa, would that be accurate?
Yes, that's my understanding as well.
Okay. Any other questions?
No, just that, thank you for the presentation. Will this be available? I noted that it will be on our website later. Oh, here's a new question. May 1 is the due date for the JJRBG plan revisions. Is the new requirements for the JJCC subcommittee meetings 2 times a year required for the calendar year or fiscal year? Point is, do I need to have 2 meetings in between January 1 and approval prior to submission May 1?
Alisa, do you want to take that?
Sure. So the requirement that the subcommittee meet twice a year in order to develop the plan only took effect on January 1st of this year. So we're not anticipating that the subcommittee would have to meet 2 times between January 1 and May 1. So I mean, I think ultimately it's a calendar year requirement that the subcommittee needs to meet twice a year, in a 12-month period. So I don't, it's not specified that it's calendar or fiscal, but certainly for the upcoming plan, we don't anticipate that every subcommittee would be able to have 2 meetings between January and May.
Thank you, Alisa. There's another question for you, Alisa, regarding the hours of unannounced site visits. Will it occur outside of 8 to 5, Monday through Friday?
They could occur outside of business hours, although I don't anticipate many situations where that would be necessary and certainly would not be desirable.
There's another question for you, Alisa. If a unit is on lockdown, an OYCR Ombudsperson shows up, would they have access to unit for investigative purposes?
That's a good question.
I think what we would want to do in that situation is, of course, discuss the situation with the chief or other staff that's in charge at the site. Often there are safety issues that are occurring, and it's not my desire, and certainly I know that it's definitely not the Ombuds' desire to interfere in any way with safety and safe and secure environments. So I think there would be a discussion and an effort to try to understand the current situation before moving to the next step.
Thank you. There's a question. When is the OYCR summary report being shared publicly?
So the 2022 summary report was shared publicly, and that is on our website. And the 2023 report is in its final stages of drafting and completion, and we're hoping to get that out as soon as possible.
Thank you. As of right now, there's no other questions. Oh, will a new template be coming out for the JJRBG plans?
Do you want to answer that, Crystal?
Sure. Yes, we have a template. We can send that to whoever is requesting that. Feel free to reach out to us. And as we mentioned earlier, we are having office hours to review the plan with anyone if you need assistance with or support with completing the plan. It is available.
And will that be posted anywhere on our website so people can download it, or is
yes.
Okay.
We are working on that now as well, Director.
Can you who do they contact, Crystal, if they want the plan that we have designed?
Christian, would you mind putting the email address in the chat for us?
I can do that.
Thank you.
And I just received notice that the summary plan for 2023 is actually done, but it's under review. So it should be posted soon.
There's a question about the PowerPoint for today. Will it be available? We will have a recording of today's session on our website. Can you put a link for the Bill of Rights? I see Alani just dropped that link for us. Thank you, Alani. Will OYCR's Bill of Rights be created and shared with the community? Great question.
Alisa, do you have a plan on that question?
Yes, we are printing piles and piles of posters and brochures and are happy to provide them to community organizations and defenders and courts and anyone who would like those materials. You just need to email the Ombud's email address or call the helpline, and we will get you those materials.
There was also a question about how soon will the posters be received?
It should be within the next 2 to 3 weeks, I believe, is the timeline. I think they're actually being printed as we speak.
Thank you. And Christian, thank you for giving us the email address for the plans.
Yeah, and Christian, can you remove the PowerPoint so we can see each other? Thank you. And is the PowerPoint PDF going to be made available? I know the recording will be. Can we post that or send it out to the registrants?
We can do that as well.
All right. Yes, posters will be in Spanish. Okay, did I miss anything?
No, that's everything.
All right. Well, really appreciate, I'm seeing Mona Williams. I know Mona. I really appreciate your attendance. How will the STC credits for today be sent out?
Feel free to use the email address for our office. We'll put it in the chat to let us know you do need STC credit, and we'll ensure you receive it.
But you probably were also asked at registration, I would think. Austin, do you have anything else on the STC credit, getting that out? Okay, but it will, we have a whole backstage on that. So you will get your credits. Will posters in other languages, or is that an old one? Yeah, okay. Okay. I think that's it. Thank you, everyone. Good to see you. And I'm sure we'll see you again soon. Take care.
Bye. Okay. Thank you.
I have a quick question. I don't know if you guys can hear me.
Yes.
Sorry, I was typing a little too quick, but essentially my question was, will posters and other information publications be available in other languages besides just Spanish and English?
Deputy Director Jackson, can you answer that?
Sure. Right now they're being printed in Spanish and English, and the letters that are being sent out by the Ombudsperson Division will also provide an email address that you can email if you need to request other languages. In the interim, we are also according to agency's language access plan, will be working towards printing in like the top 5 threshold languages. So that is already underway as well. And we can provide more information if you'd like to email us.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Director, I have just one clarification. I was just informed that the poster, we expect that the materials will be mailed out by March. A little bit longer than I. 505.
Okay, sorry. Okay, did everyone hear that? Okay, excellent. Okay, anything else?
It looks like Sarah Mejia might have a specific question.
Hi, yes, I have a specific question. I'm trying to find in the California rules of court for the rule. It's pretty specific, so I don't expect like an instant answer, but the rule 5.570 for a request to change a court order, when a sibling is requesting visitation, there's a section, I'm trying to find it here. It says basically if the parent is not under jurisdiction, I'm trying to find it, of the court or something, if the mutual parent is not under a certain jurisdiction, that the sibling may not have the right to visit their other siblings. And I'm just wondering how, if the Juvenile Bill of Rights, the section that allows for that right, if that would supersede this other section, which I'm trying to find so I could refer exactly to where it's at. I think I found it. It's section E4.
So Sarah, I don't think we're prepared to answer such a nuanced question during this webinar. It's a great question. And if you would like to send us the question to our the general email box.
Okay.
Somebody can try to tackle that with you, but
okay, I know I didn't expect an off the cuff answer, but I'm dealing with a very specific situation, trying to advocate for a sibling who's trying to just visit her siblings.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much.
And then Eddie has a question.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So I'm aware that the Chief Probation Officers Association opposed AB 505. I wonder if you're aware of what that opposition was based on, and do you anticipate that in some counties that's going to be an issue in terms of full compliance and implementation of AB 505 in their counties?
So I do not believe it will be an issue of full implementation. As you know, we're not a advocacy group. We're an implementation group, OYCR, and this is how things are done, right? This is a democracy, so people get to be in favor of things and not in favor of things. But once the legislation has gone through, we continue to have a very good relationship with the Chief Probation Officers of California, and really all the chiefs of the counties which we interact with when we do the site visits. I don't anticipate any issues.
Thanks.
Sure. Okay, so I think that you guys are the holdouts. 85 still on, but I think we're done. And I hope to see you at one of our webinars again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.